99-99 final point. You're in.
We can only dream.
Yeah.
We can only
that
dream.
That is my personal hope that we'll see one of those this week. But let's kick off our last week right now. Athletico up against Blank. Let's have a chat about these team comps.
Well, I mean, the other thing we should note is that Blank have a new inclusion. Damon has come across here.
Yeah, we kind of didn't touch on that at all.
Yeah, so obviously Morton they've picked up from Korea, and Damon, the ex-Shanghai Dragons player, I believe. Someone who's had a taste of the top level, been to OWL before.
Yeah.
Now, Blank Esports really picking up some heavyweight players here. Of course, these guys all are playing from the house in New Zealand as well.
Yeah, playing from across the pond, that's for sure. And we'll see how this Sombro play will come out. But right now, it's Roro coming through and picking up a few easy kills. You'll find Blank so close. Will surely pick up the objective in just a second. It's only a matter of time. And as you said, Damon coming from the Shanghai Dragons, playing up against Athletico. Probably has a little bit of insight for Athletico this season because obviously both those teams going through without wins.
Yeah, he feels right at home.
Like, I know what these guys are thinking right now.
Yeah, he knows what's going through their heads. And Athletico, they've had to make some wholesale changes already. We see 3 swaps. We've got the Moira coming out for Goobs, as well as Atar picking up the McCree and the Winston to try and deal with this frustrating comp that Blank are, honestly, at this point, quite good at bringing out, the Sombra Pharmacy. Yeah,
well, that's it. We've seen it a few times in a row now, and I always enjoy it when we do see it. And I feel like Roro's kind of, you know, been building it back up. He almost forgot how to play Pharah, and now he's straight back into it as well. The sound barrier are going to come through. Transcendence popped also. This one coming out from Tongue. Roro still sitting on this rocket barrage, playing it nice and safe. Does not want to give up his life by accidentally doing those ones. And he saw that the leap was down, I think, from 4, but the Diva was still there. But nevertheless, we're already up to 60% here for Blank.
Yeah, Zol had used quite a bit of his Matrix already, so I think that's why he decided it was time to pop the Rocket Barrage, but Cast Curse there, fantastic as ever, manages to see him go down. Unfortunately, that's the suicide, but really it didn't matter at all. Blank Esports had that fight locked up, and a sneaky little pile driver here from Morton is going to lock down the first kill and possibly this this next fight and the rest of of Garden here for Blank Esports. Quick retreat from Athletico. They've got away from that one respawn.
Yeah, one good EMP seals the deal. It's kind of that situation. It comes through, hits 5 of them. Only Goobs remains. At least Goobs can pop the ulti and try and make something of this here. But one Coalescence is probably not going to be enough to contest the point. Roro once again back on the barrage. He's got to be very careful. He's getting better at throwing it out and then aiming at absolutely no one once he gets charged down with it. But I can't imagine much coming from this Athletico push, and Blank will pick up the first point of the day.
So Atar certainly helped with zoning out Roro there. We saw quite a few times making him, you know, poking him back, forcing him out of position. Unfortunately, it was only really long enough for Athletico to get onto the point. It was never really long enough for Athletico to get any purchase and really start winning a team fight. As soon as they got back in that pagoda, Roro would be able to find a position, of course, with the Mercy on him, just heal back up way too quickly, and then he was able to do all of the damage he needed. So Blank picking up a pretty easy first point there. Athletico's response after that first fight, they tried a little something, they had something up their sleeves, but it wasn't enough still. And Blank once again going for this pharmacy.
Yeah, look, I'm eager to see it in. The question is, are these guys willing to deal with it? Can someone actually deal with Blank in this pharmacy? And I feel like it's going to be tough for almost anyone that isn't up to par, right? If you can't man for man take them on, or woman for woman, player for player, whatever it may be, it's very difficult for anyone to deal with this pharmacy.
Well, they do have the Sombra now, which they didn't have on Gardens, and I think that'll certainly increase their chances a bit. Atar, of course, on his very favourite Genji. Last week we were talking about, you know, wanting to see him on something that was a little more his speed. Unfortunately, he's going to have trouble with that. You know, he's got to have a Winston on him at all times. He's got to run away from those rockets. It's not particularly easy for a Genji to deal with a Pharah. You have to be quite skilled to be jumping up and finishing those swift strikes.
You've got to be pretty good, right? And it's what we're saying, right? To be able to
It's not really his job.
Yeah, exactly. You're assigned a task that maybe isn't in your skill set necessarily. And already now up to 25%. Roro with the barrage. And oh, there we go.
Hey.
Atar! We were saying maybe this is outside of his skill set, but he waits with the barrage and actually comes through with a fist. That's like 3 melee kills in a row.
Maybe the Swift Strike animation just doesn't work anymore for Genji. Perhaps it's just the melee. I haven't seen enough Genji lately to actually test this out. But yeah.
Anyway, we'll see.
I feel like that was probably a Swift Strike kill.
Oh, yeah.
Either way, he's got the Dragon Blade ready. Unfortunately, Goobs did not save the Nano Boost for him, so we don't have that in sync. We're not going to have a Nano Blade coming out unless Goobs can get that up, and Atar holds onto it a little bit, especially when, there's no big defensive ults on the side of Blank Esports. That's when the Dragon Blade can come into its own. There's no sound barrier. There's no Transcendence to hide behind when he unsheathes the blade.
It should be 3 kills, theoretically, if no one is able to stop it. But CD will come through. And Morton does go down, so that EMP going to buy them 1 kill. The question is, can they turn this around and pick up the point? Atar sitting back. He would love to get some picks in here with his Dragon Blade as well, right in the thick of things. So far, not going his way. Roro getting hacked out whilst being nano boosted, I think, was the end result there. And 4 comes through, finds 3. It's what he needs to be doing, to be perfectly honest. And they will manage to bring it back in favour of Athletico for the first time so far where they've been able to capture the point.
Yeah, entirely on Lijiang Tower. A very hesitant fight there from Athletico. We see Atar holding onto that blade the entire time, and honestly, it took a huge play from 4 to make that work. I think without that, really, Blank might have just closed out the fight here, but as it stands, they're about to have 5 ults, and they might just be able to do that anyway. The Nano Blade is really Athletico's only way, and they need to trade it for quite a few ults, and he can't do it while he's hacked.
Yeah, the EMP comes through, the Rocket Barrage comes through as well. It's only going to be Zol's mech that goes down, however. Morton finally does find Atar, and whilst Athletico have managed to get this up now 40%, it's going to be very difficult for them to stop Blank recapturing the point and making it 2-0 here on Lijiang Tower. Yeah,
it's desperate times when we've got a Boostio coming out, Ben. Unfortunately, Atar holds onto that blade the entire time, and Goobs ends up using the Nano Boost on Lucio. Atar already taken down at that point. It was a fantastic set of hacks and EMP coming out from Damien, really showing his skills here in his first game with Blank Esports.
Look, they're doing some work. To be fair, they're contesting the point. Atar's going to go down to the Sombra. One would assume it's probably only a matter of time, but Athletico definitely fighting this one to the death. You cannot say that they haven't still got fight in them, even though they're here at the end of the season and probably not in the position that they want to be. But they're putting every last-ditch effort into it, and you've got to give them kudos for that.
Yeah.
You can't give them the kudos back, Korean.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be having any of those kudos this season, unfortunately. And, well, one map down here. That is Atletico's best type of map. The control, they do tend to be a little bit better on. It's a bit more free-form. It's a bit more, it suits their style of play. We're working with
some weird stats, though, aren't we, Genome? We're working with some little...
Well, at this point, they've played everyone else in the pool, Ben, so...
Yeah, but what I'm saying is if you lose all the other maps, then there's and you've only won a couple of maps.
It's some versus none. I mean, that's all they've given us to go on, Ben. These are all the stats I have to work with.
There's not much there. But look, Athletico gave us a bit of a burl, but so far it is all Blank Esports, and this is what they're going to be looking for. They want to give themselves the best chance. Whatever, don't leave anything to chance today. Lock yourselves in a 4-0. Feel happy. They'll have 19 map wins if they do, and I think that's probably securely locks Blank into the 3rd place, short of any crazy shenanigans.
Yes, I don't think we will be getting anything that wild happening, and either way, we've still got a couple of maps left to go, and Blank aren't going to be, trying to drop anything. They want to show exactly how good they are here, and Athletico Are going to have to try a bit harder if they want to stop them. I mean,
Yeah.
we just saw a huge disconnect in the way ultimates were coming out there from the Atletico side. You know, the fact that... I know we don't see the nano blades so much anymore, Ben, and maybe some of these players have forgotten a little bit how that works, but you really need to have your Ana and your Genji in sync. Now, the compositions they're playing these days are a little bit different because you've got that Sombra in there. You know, perhaps the Ana doesn't get as many heals off because you're playing such a sort of split up all over the place.
You're trying to avoid the EMP, right? You're not next to each other.
Yes, you got to split up for that. You're trying to chase a Pharah over the other side of the map. There's a lot of things that are going on. So perhaps it is a little bit harder these days for Ana to achieve as much healing and therefore get her ultimate up that fast to keep up with the Genji. But, you know, Boostio, that's all I'm saying.
Look, it must have been some sick beats though, right? That must have been one heck of a time. Next up, it's going to be Kings Row. Whilst I do say Junkertown is my favourite map, I always feel like Kings Row is kind of the competitive community's favourite map. It always feels very balanced. We get a lot of good games here. I'm going to be seeing just how far Atletico can push this one. How far can they get the payload is my question. Can they make something of this? Because I feel like it's possible, but Blank have been pretty good this season.
They have? Yep.
I have some concerns.
I mean, we saw them full hold Legacy on Kings Row last time they played it, so Blank certainly have a pedigree in stopping people right at the spawn door if they feel like it, if they're really up to it on that day. The other interesting thing is this is one of the maps that favors GOATs the most. Now, for these two teams that really don't favor that composition, what will they opt to go for? And it looks like Atletico, perhaps expecting Roro to come out on the Pharah, have had to go for a preemptive McCree, which hasn't worked out because now they're just running into a straight-up GOATs composition here from Blank.
Well, what do you even do, right? That's why
you can't do anything. You have to go back or play a safer composition to start with.
Yep. Look, Morton does go down, and that's gone on the back of a little bit of damage, and of course, 4 there sitting on the Winston. And look, we have seen a few different defenses where the Winston.
That was such a good start to the fight, Ben. They managed to take Morton down, and then Goobs is just in nowhere. Just absolutely no man's land. So far out, that's a turnaround for Blank Esports that just absolutely shouldn't have happened. You see Atar creeping around the statue there, trying to get in that extra damage, but meanwhile, the Atletico team is just spread out like a spaghetti.
Yeah, which is probably not how you necessarily want to play the setup. 4 going to swap across now to the Reinhardt. Atar, of course, not going to be on any sort of McCree anymore. It's going to be GOATs v GOATs. You know, they could just swap across again. That's the problem with being on defense, right? In this kind of situation where GOATs is great, but Barra is awesome. It's
a very different situation to, say, Blizzard World, where you actually have time to go back and switch if you're the defending team. Not on Kings Row. The initial point is just too close.
Grab and self-destruct coming through from Blank. Roro has been taken out, but Noz comes through with a huge 3-man self-destruct. The rest of the team also follows up, and well, that was a nice fight win from Blank. Atletico will be able to get back into the thick of things, though. At least one more fight before we get to Objective B here. Let's see how far forward Blank choose to push.
Yeah, I think Eevee popped the sound barrier there in response to the Graviton Surge, but then just didn't have it in time to keep them alive for that self-destruct. Too much coming out from Blank. They stagger their ults just well enough to make that work, and they're going to have a rally to use in this next fight as well once they back off from the self-destruct.
Yeah, it comes through and sort of forces everyone out. Yeah. Look, I heard some good advice from old mate John Galt the other day on his stream about Diva Bombs that we can go into a little bit later. I thought it was interesting. But this one not having the desired effect, that is for sure. You can see Atletico managed to push everyone back. Kura with an aggressive sound barrier, and on the back of that, Blank Esports push on through. They find the Reinhardt and force Atletico back. What John Galt was saying was that even kind of speculative Diva Bombs that separate even one player, if you can get that one player, on it, right? then it's worth it, right?
And that is the perfect place to use it, right? The T-junction
yes, that's what I was
in
looking
Kings
for.
Row. is exactly. It's the same as, you know, we used to see Blizzards use there a lot because it does the same thing. It forces people out into
and you can get your
two
pick
separate.
there.
Yeah, but unfortunately, they don't follow it up.
No.
We saw Blank pull back, and then they just sprang back straight away like a slinky.
Like a slinky, yeah. Like a punching bag, mate. Ready to go. Look, self-destruct now available from Noz. So you can't really get out of... I think the grab also came out from ATAR. It was a grab for grab. But this could be a big one right in the middle of things. There's actually 4 who goes down. The sound barrier seems to keep everyone else alive. If only for now, however. But you can see that payload moving forward.
So close.
And Morton has this Earth Shatter available. Potential just to throw it as soon as everyone comes through. It'll probably go under the payload. They know that the personal shields are all down as well here. No one's even on the point.
I love that. Just before it went down, Zol was shattered on the floor, and Morton actually swung the hammer and just teed Exile straight off into the hole.
Oh, look, that's a real hole in one. Well, I guess it's not really. It's into the hazard.
Yeah, +2.
Yeah, that's what you want. Go again. But 4 minutes, 11 seconds here in the time bank for Blank. And it really, there was no point throughout that entire half where it felt like Athletico were going to be able to hold Blank out.
Nope, they really struggled. Honestly, I think the best opportunity they had was that initial pick on Morton. That was honestly the best it got for them there on that defense. And yeah, as I said, you know, they looked like a piece of spaghetti there. What they really want is maybe, I don't know, rigatoni, I think, you know, a nice tight sort of circle together, holding it in as much.
Ravioli.
That's what you want.
Because you're in it, right? If you're one piece of ravioli.
Okay, and then Ryan's like the covering. Ryan's like your shield.
Well, that's it, right? You got Reinhardt's or maybe you your bubble is the pasta, and then you're all in there together with your Reinhardt. Could be lasagna, because that's all kind of together.
Layers.
Yeah, it's all about the layers. I don't know. Anyway, whatever it is, it's making me
hungry. When pasta metaphors go too far.
No copy past this one. Thank you. So, look, Blank in prime position right now. Let's see what Athletico can do. Hopefully they can make through to the end. And, well...
Very interesting comp here for Blank on the defense.
I love it.
They've got a Tracer. We've seen Roro pull this out quite a lot, especially in those you know, sticky situations where he's got to get back to the point fast, and he always seems to do a lot of damage with it then. So in a more structured environment like we see now, where Damon, you know, holding the team back with some dynamite, Athletico just seeing how they want to play this. They've actually opted for a dive composition, and a beautiful headshot from Damon is going to eliminate ATAR and send Athletico back to spawn.
That dynamite probably not going where it wanted to, but it does not matter. The rest of the damage will be enough, and Blank managing to hold them off. But now with an interesting team comp, just the single tank here for Morton.
Yeah, so it's really quite tough for Athletico to work out how they get in here. They're taking so much damage from Damon, as we see here. They have gone through the theater. That allows them to finally grab a little bit of space as Noz just charging up his EMP. Roro with a constant harass in here in the back. We see how much damage, like it's just, they just can't seem to get in there. 4 needs to be making this space for them, and he can't do it.
Absolutely filthy here from Damon. They were not expecting this one, I suspect, but he has absolutely dominated so far on Ash. Even... surely there's something they can play.
Well, we've seen them try and go through the theater so far. They're just taking too much chip damage. I mean, you know, would they prefer to go something like that? They just don't seem to like Reinhardt comps very much, do they? Okay, they prefer to go on the Winston, play something a bit more mobile, but unfortunately it's costing them because they've got so many low HP heroes. I mean, I say so many. They've only got, they do have their 2 tanks, which is kind of, you know, before it would have been normal, but now, pushing into this EMP, we see how quickly they get melted.
Yeah, and they literally are unfortunately being melted here. Blank just doing way too much damage. My question then, Genome, is what happens if you play traditional goats here behind the Reinhardt? Then what happens?
You're definitely at risk of getting EMP'd pretty heavily. I think it does. I think it would have worked better for the first fight because there's no risk of ultimates. You can push your way onto the point. The dynamite is very good. That was probably a key point about how it plays out versus Goats is like whether you take that first dynamite damage too heavily and you have to expend either your Lucio healing boost or perhaps the repair pack from Brigitte.
Roro going to get caught out there by Zol, so they're one down. We'll see whether Kura's going to be able to get in there and make something of this and bring him back. Probably not for now, but there's so much that Blank have to work with here. Goobs, oh, that slick coming through, but I think the damage must come back. Aito's managed to find 2 though. Morton, one of the last few left here to try and make something happen on the defensive side. And
good hack onto him.
Yeah, I think this has actually played out not too poorly now for Athletico. They're sitting on almost 6 ultimates as well. They're onto the point. Still 45 seconds on the clock. They should be able to capture and get the payload moving and maybe even win a fight or 2.
And the fact that they didn't have to use any ults is spectacular, all on the back of Atar getting those picks finally. You know, showing up to be that superstar we all want him to be. So the fact that they've managed to do that without any ult is fantastic. However, Blank now, they've switched over to the Reinhardt. It doesn't look like they're going full Goats. They are sticking on the Ashe for the moment. And it'll be interesting to see how this plays out in the Streets phase when Athletico, they can go in with an EMP. They've got a Nano Blade. They've got so many options.
Self-destruct going to come through as well. Won't find anyone. EMP and Transcendence used by Blank. And Aito's actually gone down without being able to pop the Dragon Blade at all. So that's definitely less than ideal. Atletico will get forced back. And now this puts Blank in a good position once again to sort of fire from these heights, make the most of this team comp that was perhaps less suited to being clumped up like we saw earlier. Yeah,
D-Field just wasn't effective enough with that EMP. We see the self-destruct come out. Oh no, actually wait, it was Exol. Can't remember if he was on D.Va on the first point as well. Either way, they've really struggled to be proactive with their ults now. And Atar being hacked after the nano boost goes onto him means we don't see that big combo come out.
I think that's the second time we've seen that so far this game. One may have been on Blank's side and one may have been on Atletico's side actually, but I think that is definitely the second time that we have seen someone nano boosted and hacked at the same time.
A big bio-nade there,
yeah.
Managing to take down a couple of the Blank Esports members as Kura will pop the Valkyrie and try and let them sustain here on this second point of Kings Row. Blank have bought a lot of time so far.
Yeah, and unfortunately for Atletico, they really have not had much time to work with either. Now, 80 seconds here on the clock. Zol not even in his mech. They're just playing with the poor little baby.
Oh
D.Va.
no, Atar switched off, and that's just... I think Blank have identified the only way that Atletico are getting through them is by a gargantuan effort from Atar. That's what happened on the first point, and they are just targeting him so hard. He's getting the hacks, he's getting all this attention from Blank, and as such, he can't get off those Nano Blades. He can't get off those Dragon Blades. Now he's had to switch off without even using it.
Yeah, that is very unfortunate. Nice Earth Shatter coming through. The beat will be dropped by Evie Bob coming out from Damon now. 6v6, everyone's still alive, even though there's been a ton thrown into this fight. Tongue still sitting on a Transcendence, however, putting Blank in prime position to sit this one out and survive through the fight if need be. Zol looking to get ever closer to that self-destruct. They need to do something. 30 seconds remains. Atletico very quickly running out of time. We're going to be looking for perhaps a shield bash onto Morton. That's going to work. The boot comes through also. He charges back. D-Field going to get caught out by Damon as that shield bash does come through. Self-destruct doesn't do anything. Tongue with the Transcendence. We talked about that before. Noz has a self-destruct of his own. Prime position once again for Blank. They're holding strong. Atletico, really not much they can do here.
Such a well-played fight there from Blank. We see Tongue coming forward, taking the aggro, stopping the cart, and using his Transcendence to make sure the payload is under Blank's control while the self-destruct from Atletico is trying to push them out. In this last fight, however, it's Noz finding a kill with his self-destruct. And unfortunately for Atletico, they've got a couple of chances left. They have actually made it through here, and they've managed to keep the Graviton Surge and the Earth Shatter in the bank.
I thought if they were surely going to win this fight, they'd have to throw everything into it. It looks to me like it was just Goobs there with the Transcendence. The rest of the team surviving long enough to pick up a couple of ultis themselves. You'd like to think now, in this overtime scenario, it's going to put them in prime position to get through checkpoint B. Ater on the side as well.
We see Bob come in there quite early, looking for him to try and contest that payload. He goes a little bit past it, but Ater here has the Graviton Surge out, ready to try and turn this fight Atletico's way and get that second point.
There we go. That's what we want to see from At. Another fight win in a row. That's 2 from 2 fight wins. But they have a lot of work still to do here.
Yeah, we saw the idea there from Blank Esports was to use Bob as sort of that buffer to allow them to push up to the payload. It was going to be a little bit tough time-wise for them to push up and be in a decent position without taking too much damage. So they pull in the Bob, and also, of course, they really want to get back onto solid goats. So that's allowed Damon to switch back to Xayah now that he's got no ultimate to hold on to. And with the third point here, I mean, you've got to remember, Ben, at Blank Esports have 4 minutes in the bank already.
Yeah, huge time bank for Blank. Not to mention, of course, they've got the spawn advantage here. We've got 2 team comps that are essentially the same as well. And look, it's going to be tough now with 50 seconds here for Atletico to get this all the way through. But if they do, it will be one heck of an achievement, that is for sure. Self-destruct coming through. Everyone getting pushed back. Transcenders coming out from Tunt, keeping them alive. Morton did get shield bash, but throws out a nice little shatter, hitting a couple. Goop stays alive, pops the Transcendence. Eevee still sitting on this sound barrier, throws it out maybe half a second too late. D-Field's gone down. Blank still sitting on 6 players. That self-destruct available from Noz as well. And for them, they're just going to be waiting until the timer hits 0, at which point they'll want to win that one fight.
Yeah, we can just see how much more effective Blank Esports are there at juggling who needs the healing, the supports from Blank, just really targeting that well to make sure no one goes down. Meanwhile, Atletico letting 2 go down before that sound barrier comes in here. The last fight will start up now, and the Grav is going to make sure that Atletico do not even make it back to the payload. A 3-2 there to Blank is a good start. Another good start to the series. I mean, 2-0 down now, going into halftime. That's
what you want if you are a Blank supporter. If you're Atletico, I think you can take a little bit of solace from how they played out the attacking side. Got almost all the way there. I can't help but feel maybe Objective A could have gone a little bit differently, but it was tough. But this Blank team is strong. When we talk about, you're talking about Overwatch League players here in Aussie Contenders, right? Yeah, you're on the Shanghai Dragons, but I think everyone would say, hey, I'd be very happy to be on the Shanghai Dragons in 2018.
Yeah, and just looking at Damon's play so far, from what he's shown us, mainly the Sombra and the Ashe have been stellar so far. We saw him being a critical part of that first very strong hold here on King's Row, as well as an integral part playing the Sombra on Lijiang Tower and really just hitting all the right targets with that EMP. So just, super impressed with how Damon has been playing so far.
Yeah, it's a relatively a way to ease in as well, I suspect as well. When you're going to make, well, to be fair, you make a roster change. We saw how roster changes impacted other teams throughout the season. You probably don't normally want to be making a roster change in week 7.
This close to the playoffs. I mean, Damon is presumably going to be going to the playoffs with them, right? So,
you know, and we saw how this affected Order when they made a change. We saw how Ground Zero played when they didn't have their full roster. So, if you're going to make a roster change and it's going to be in week 7, I guess you may as well make it if you know you're playing against a team that's yet to pick up a win.
It's been a weird trend this season, hasn't it? It's like all the super important games, like Order playing Sydney Drop Bears, their main rival, Ground Zero playing Mavs, their main rival, really, in the rankings, have been the times where they've had, you know, new members out, something to not really give us that taste of the peak of 2 teams going against each other. You'll just have to wait for the playoffs for that, I suppose.
Well, certainly. Well, I guess it leaves us a little bit to think about, right? We don't know all of the answers coming into playoffs. And that was the one thing I was a little bit concerned about, I suppose. Like, oh, we had this big Order versus Sydney Drop Bears matchup, and maybe that's going to spoil it for us later. But it hasn't spoiled our dinner, I suspect. We're still going to be very hungry for that one come playoffs. But for now, we are going to take a very quick halftime break. When we come back, more Overwatch action.